Welcome back. It is our special edition of Daybreak Africa today, 1st October 2024, as we celebrate Nigeria's 64th independence today. Now, like you know, if you're a Nigerian, the history to independence was a long journey, and a lot of people have also agreed that it is still a journey in process. Well, what that means, I really do not know. From the amalgamation of Nigeria, the Northern and Southern Protectorate in 1914, to the actual independence in 1960, it was all a movement from nationalism to political agitation that actually brought Nigeria to where it is today. To discuss the topic this morning, Nigeria's independence celebration, 64 years after matters arising, we have a guest who has become a friend. He is Mr. Rufus Olatunji. He is a lecturer as well as political analyst. He is a graduate of AREYOU College of Education, Ondo State, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ileife, University of Benin, Lead University, Ibadan, where he obtained his NCE, Economics and Geography, BSc Education Geography, MSc Education Social Studies Education, Diploma in Computer Studies, and several other professional computer training, respectively. It's so nice to have you on the show today, a special edition. I should say happy independence, even before we begin to discuss this morning.
Thank you very much, Anita. Thank you for inviting me again, and happy independence.
Yes.
We thank God for where we are as a nation. Thank you very much.
Yes. So Nigeria's journey to independence from British colonial rule culminated in 1960. It was marked by nationalist movements, political negotiations, evolving governance structures, reflecting the nation's diverse ethnic and cultural tapestry. Nigeria has come a long way. If we decide to talk about Nigeria, in my mind, I feel we should divide it into two parts. That is the post and pre-independence time. Of course, like I started, we cannot talk about Nigeria without talking about the colonial influence that we had or in our history, and the nationalist movements that came after the post-Second World War, which birthed the need for freedom, the need for independence, which came as a wave into Africa from, countries like India and other parts of Africa who were under colonialism. Of course, Nigeria caught the bug. Then there was independence. After independence came other problems. Remarkable of all of it was the civil war that we had, and down, which we're talking about the post-colonial, post-independence period. So for me, I would want you to let us talk a little bit about before the independence, the life that we lived as a people in Nigeria. Of course, the British colonial influence that we had then before, 1953, where Nahoro, the young gentleman, proposed independence. I would want us to start from there.
Thank you very much. It has been a journey worthwhile for Nigeria. Just as you said, pre-independence, it has been a time of colonial influence in every aspect of Nigeria life. Of course, you will know even before 1914, there wasn't anything like Nigeria. But the amalgamation that took place in 1914 actually birthed Nigeria. And that was actually the amalgamation of the Northern and the Southern Protectorate. Politically, we were being ruled by the foreigners, and their system was actually brought to us to use as a people. You will agree with me that as at that time, we really do not have an indigenous politicians or even administrators that man different areas of governance in the country. Everything were, being taken over by the British. And as at that time, our economy were in their hands, our politics were in their hands, and we were more or less an annex of the British government, because their political system is what actually brought to Nigeria. And just like you said, when the nationalism movement began to agitate for freedom from people like Anthony Nahoro that you quite mentioned, Obafemi Awolowo, Ezekiel and others, and they were agitating. There were there were series of conferences, Lagos conference, London conference, Berlin conference, just to make sure that they were giving freedom to rule themselves as a people, because probably they have been able to discover that there are a lot of anomalies on the part of our colonial masters, how they have been governing us. And this has to do with the way they share resources, the way they manage the resources of the nation, and then politically how they were maneuvering us as a people, and having learned one or two things in their system. So people have to come together and begin to agitate that it is quite ripe for us to see how we can rule ourselves instead of allowing these people to continue to rule us for life. So, and this is what brought about independence in 1960, October 1st. So that's just a brief, because there are a lot of things that went into it. The constitutional development, the liquidating, the McPherson constitution, the Richard constitution, and so on. And then the patterning of the, how do I put it now, the representative of Nigerians in the government of the colonial masters. There were a lot of disparities in the selection of people, the northern representative, the southern representative, the Lagos axis, and so on, the Calabar axis, and so on and so forth. So all these disparities, the agitation began, having seen all the disparities in the mode of selection of people and even the governance on itself. So the agitation started, and they have to fight for independence. And luckily, 1960, we're given independence.
I guess the question at this point is, since 1960, how well have we fared for ourselves? Because I hear many saying it was more like it's better off when we were still ruled by foreigners, because it's more like we are not doing a very good job ourselves. So how do you think we have fared so far?
Let me start by saying that since independence, we have had our triumphs and we have had our tribulations as a country. So we cannot just say straight that we have failed, and we cannot just say we have arrived as a country. So we have had our ups and downs. And part of our ups, part of our triumphs are that as a people, in one way or the other, we have been able to still be together since 1960, despite our diverse differences, our diversity. We are still, we were able to keep ourselves as a country and as a people. So it's an achievement. It's a big achievement, because some countries will have divided. We have all of them around us, the Sudan and all other places like that. They were unable to keep themselves. But I think to the glory of God now, we have been able to keep ourselves as one. Even though we went through a civil war, which nearly pulled us apart, but yet we are still together today. That's a big achievement. Not only that, and I think in terms of civil rule, I think we are making it. We are making it, even though we have challenges, but yet we are still on a stretch. We are in the Fourth Republic now, and it's about 24 years, and therefore it's a plus on our side that we are already moving forward when it comes to governing ourselves. So these are the few triumphs that we have had, and then when it comes to tribulation, of course, you can have a lot of them. from economy to education to security to we are not yet there. We are not yet there, but we're improving every day. So that is just a brief summary of how far are we. We cannot totally say we have failed as a nation, even though we are not doing well, but we have not failed completely. We are a work in progress. We're a work in progress as a country. So that is for now.
Now, in 1953, AREYOU became the first to move the motion for Nigeria's independence, which was eventually granted in 1960. As the national motion for Nigeria's independence suffered a setback in the parliament, with the northern members of the parliament staging a walkout as a consequence of the motion. Notwithstanding the defeat in the parliament, a popular movement was started on account of this motion, and the pressure was now mounted against colonialism, and there were agitations for independence. Again, I revisit AREYOU, who moved for
the motion for independence.
Although there were setbacks in 1953, when he did that, there were follow-ups. I mentioned Fani Kayode and Akintola and a whole lot of other people who moved some years after. It took almost 15 years for the actualization, and right then a lot of analysts have said we cannot move forward without actually taking a look at the past. Not every part, like you rightly said, before 1914, there was nothing known as Nigeria. Then by 1914, the entity called Nigeria was formed. We had people who led their people in terms of villages, in terms of locality. We didn't have things like states then, actually, but we had kings, we had law and order that governed us as a people, even before the arrival of the British into our nation. But eventually, one particular symbol that has been a problem to Nigerians is the symbol of ethnicity. It has been a big problem. I just want to ask that before independence, and of course after independence, how have we fared in terms of ethnicity? How much have we gained or lost because of ethnicity in the nation?
Thank you very much. What I've just said, it has been a problem that we have been battling with even up to today. The issue of differences amidst us in terms of I'm a northerner, I'm a southerner, I'm a westerner, and here and there. Pre-independence, you agree with me that we have what do we call now this house of representatives, where we have the representative of Lagos, the northern clique, the eastern clique, the southern clique, the colony of Lagos now. Now, in that house, the issue of the number of the representatives from the northern parts, the issue of the number of representatives from the southern part became an issue. And I think this was during the time of Clifford. And the northerners were agitating that they have the number, just as it is up to today, that they have the number, that they should have the more number of representatives in the House, more than the southerners. And this became an issue to the extent that at the time they pull out, that they will not be part of the House. And these are the fractions that we have been having right from time. And even from the conference that led to the independence, we were told that the northern representatives were not interested in Nigeria becoming independent, because actually the mode of governance before independence was actually tilted to favor the northerners. And politically up to today, that's what we're still facing. the Northerners, either we like it or not, they are still, they are still cutting the shot when it comes to political arena in Nigeria. The system was tilted towards them because the colonial masters, actually perceived that they have the population, and those of us in the South here, we are more interested in education, and they tried to accede the power to them. And so, seeing that, they see it as an opportunity to leverage their own area of strength to make sure that it is not yet time for, we are not matured enough, we are not ready, we will not be able to rule ourselves because of the probably perceived differences in us, that is between the northern and the southern representative. But eventually, because of the influence of the British, they were able to overrule their agitation, and eventually were able to get it. So concerning ethnicity, it has been a tug of war in Nigeria. It has been a clock in the wheel of our journey, and that is why up till now we are still battling with it. It is not something that just started today. It has started right from pre-independence. So it's a problem.
Let's talk a little about the aspirations of our founding fathers. Indeed, they had something in mind when requesting or demanding for independence. They had what they actually intended for Nigeria to look in the next 10, 15, 20, 60 years. I think to ask, do you think those aspirations have been achieved so far, or just a bit has been achieved even?
It has not been achieved. We started on a very good note. After immediately we gained independence, we had a regional government, the eastern, the western, the northern regions, 3 regions, and you have to see the development that took place within that period. In terms of competition, a healthy competition that has to do with economic, state of the nation. That's when we used to hear of the cocoa and the timber in the west here. You heard of the palm oil in the east, and then the granite pyramid in the north. And these were the economic base of the country then. There were nothing like unemployment. People were gainfully employed then. So we have fared a little bit okay when it comes to from our takeoff. Unfortunately now it's no more like that, but right from the takeoff, the projection that our leaders had, people like Obafemi Awolowo, the projection they had for the country, and that is why a foresight, you can imagine, as at 1973, we've had a Nigerian Television Authority, even right before then, Nigeria Television Authority, and which no country have had in Africa then. And though formerly Western television, but translated to that, is to tell you how focused they were. Those are leaders. People like Ezekiel, people like Tafawa Balewa, they had a very good focus for the country. But at a time when we begin to experience instability in the governance mode, from regional government to presidential system of government, and then the issue of civil war, the military incursion, and all those things. Those are the things that actually interrupted the solid goals, objective that the founding fathers, they had for the country. So, in actual sense, at the beginning, they were pursuing the goals. They were already making it. I was going through some text recently. Look at the exchange rate at the independence. Nigeria's currency was higher in value than dollars and pounds from the start. But today, it has been another story. So we actually had a very good starting, and the founding fathers, they had a very good focus at making sure that our country becomes best, not only in Africa, but in the world. But unfortunately, a lot of things interrupted those processes, and that is where we are today.
Now, talking about our founding fathers, we have such great stories to tell about our founding fathers. Again, we'll talk about the Nigerian youth, because at that time, going back to Nahoro, who was the first gentleman, the first Nigerian to stand out to say, you know what, it is possible for us to be free, and we demand our freedom. That was a young chap, very young man. The story is different today. Most of the nationalists we had then were not old people like we have today. These were young Nigerians, vibrant, who had the spirit of nationalism in them and were not afraid. We all know the story of Nahoro. He was a Zikist. He went to jail not once, not twice, fighting for the emancipation of Nigerians, fighting for the independence of Nigeria, which we all enjoy today. These were young people. Let us take a look at this nationalist spirit. As Nigerians, you did mention that education was one of the tools, the light, that gave us nationalism, or that gave us independence, because even when the northern representatives walked out at the first call for independence, it was the awareness that Nahoro had as a brilliant, educated mind, a mind that was reading, a mind that was open to both local and international politics, that he knew the possibilities. But it changed, you know, post-independence. But again, let us look at that spirit of nationalism. You actually spoke about our founding fathers giving the roadmap for a great or better Nigeria in the future. But of course, that has been truncated. How do we begin to build this spirit of nationalism? Do you think that we probably lost it, or we began to lose it when that light began to wane? Do you think that? Do you think that we could actually, you know, trace whatever problems we're having? Because the Americans will preach patriotism. The American will die for his flag. Anywhere an American is fallen, the entire nation will go and look for that. They never leave their dead behind. Because of that spirit of patriotism. And ours is nationalism. Do you think our problems can be traced to that light waning?
Thank you very much. The young man you kept mentioning, Tony Nahoro, he wasn't the only one. Like I said, his colleague, Obafemi Awolowo and others, they were young people as at that time. Don't forget that these people that agitated for nationalism then, some of them, or probably their parents, were taken as slaves to the European countries. And there, some of them were born there and brought up there. And they were well trained. On their coming back to the country, they have become the light of the country. So they were well trained. They understand the dynamism that it involves when it comes to governance. They have experienced it outside the country. People like Awolowo were talking about, they went out, they read there. By the time they come back, they were able to discover who we are as a people, then our values. When you synchronize it with the level of education they have, they discover that they can actually make life, you know, good for Nigeria by governing ourselves. And therefore, that was what, you see, the education they receive play important role in their life. Unlike nowadays, that actually the youth of today, we are no more interested in what is called sound education. And it all began at a time. It wasn't just like that before. It started when the issue of, you know, making money by all means. And this has to do with the incursion of the military, which changed the system and introduced a kind of institutionalized corruption, whereby if you don't work, you can still get money. And from there, You see, in Yoruba parlance, they say, Eshinwaju ni teyin wo sare. That is, the horse that is at the front, the one at the back will always imitate. Where the front horse, the horse at the front jumped, the other one will jump there. Where it's stopped, the other one will stop there. So you actually imitate. So when the young ones are imitating those that we see as elders, they were supposed to actually put things right or follow the pattern of the old. When they are doing it in a way that they are not care about anybody, they are only for themselves, the youth, they are watching. And one funny thing is that they will know it more than those that they are imitating. Whatever the others are doing, the youth will do double of it when they get there.
Now, it is important that you actually took us towards the direction of the military. Because of time, we have a lot to do today. We're going to take a short break to bring our next package and, of course, some music. And when we return, we shall be going straight on to the impact of the military during this journey to independence, or after independence, as it were, and before, after, and of course, all that we are seeing today. So we'll take a short break, and when we return, our guests will still be here. Enjoy. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak Africa special, because today is Independence Day celebration package for you, and we're having fun right here. We hope you're doing the same. Before the break, our guest actually took us towards the direction of our next question as we talk about matters arising right from our independence in 1960 and, of course, till date, 64 years after. So you didn't mention about the military. That was actually our next question as we take a look at its, the effect of the military in this journey. I would want to actually get your take on how it impacted on the journey after and, of course, the journey now.
Thank you very much. Right from 1967, when the civil, what's it called? This war,
Civil War. When
it broke out, and you know, from the rank and file of the Nigerian army, the Anguirossi, saga, and the killing of the northern officers, and the retaliation of the northern officers by killing Anguirossi in Ibadan, and also the killing of Adekunle Fajuyi of the Western region, then the Governor General of the Western region then. And during this period, you will agree with me that they were not focusing on any form of governance. It was the rivalry between the North and the South, predominantly the Eastern officers. And this disorganized whatever program that had been laid down from 1960. 1963 we actually started the presidential system. That was when we had our first republic. So, I mean parliamentary rather. We were faring well in terms of our economy. There were nothing like insecurity. The military officers were kept in their barrack, and they focused on maintaining the security of the nation. But when the issue of you are promoting your ethnic men above my ethnic officers, the issue of assassination and counter-assassination, overthrowing government and counter-overthrowing government begin to happen. So all this, from after that, the Civil War, which was led by Gowon, then Buhari, was it Buhari that took over, or Murtala Muhammad? Now, before Shagari came, had a brief civil role given to him by Obasanjo, and during that time we have stability. But before we know it now, Buhari took over overthrew him. And then from there, all this period that the military were having, we did not have a specific focus as a nation. They were just ruling us by decree. What they want is what they do. Actually, they made little improvement on the nation, because it was really the military. The refineries we're having today, it was really the military. The Third Milan Bridge, it was built by the military. Those are the little achievements that we can point to. For many years, we couldn't have any system of government that we can say we can be improving on. Unlike what we have now, we know that our civil rule is not perfect yet, but we are improving on it. But during this period that the military were in government in Nigeria, we did not have any form of focus as a nation that, oh, in the next 10 years, we want to achieve this. In the next 20 years, we want to achieve this. Maybe health sector, we want to make sure that we are dependent, I mean, we are independent of any country. Are people running to other countries to go and, you know, receive health services? There weren't anything like that. And so the incursion of military into the governance in the country has actually brought more retrogression than progression to us. So that is why no matter how bad our civil rule is now, I think it's still better. It's still better because we can be improving, no matter how deficiency we may be in our managing of the system, but we can be improving on it.
While you were talking about pre-independence era, you did mention regionalism, and then you did mention the fact where we left there for another system to another system, and then we kept evolving. And we hear now people clamoring for regionalism, regional system of government. I tend to wonder, was it that we had the best system, but somehow greed made us left it for another and another, and what we are practicing right now is not working for us? Is that why we want to go back to the regional system?
For me, my personal opinion, regional government is better than presidential.
Why so?
Good. It promotes heavy competition among the regions. Of course, we are not saying we should be having 3 regions like before, because things have changed. Geographically, we have our line of fractures here and there. As of today, we have 6 geopolitical zones in the country. The northwest, the northeast, the north central, the southwest, the southeast, the south-south. We are fragmented into 6. And if, in my own opinion, we are to revert to regional government, that 6 geopolitical zones should form the basis for the regional government. Don't you think that we further neposes it to further destabilize us already? It won't, because why are this line of diversity more pronounced? Is because if you look at these geopolitical zones, you will discover that they speak more of the same language, they have very close related culture, and they understand themselves very well. They have common identity when it comes to the issue of occupation, the issue of language, culture, and so on and so forth. So, take Yoruba, for example. We can understand ourselves in terms of language. We share the same culture. And then when it comes to occupation, majority of us are farmers. And so, when you go to the north, the northwest, there are activities that are peculiar to them there. The northeast, the same thing. North central, the same thing. So, there can't be much problem if we actually adopt regional system of government, unlike this presidential that we have. It's a copycat from the US. And number 1, it is very, very expensive. Number 2, it accommodates a lot of excesses. And it emphasizes our lines of differences instead of our lines of commonality. And for me, it is better because let's take, for example, the National Assembly. We are operating by camera system, the upper and the lower house. And recently we were calculating the salary of the National Assembly alone. We pay Nigerian workers about 1.5 million federal workers now. the salary of National Assembly in a year, we pay the salary of Nigerian workers for about 10 years. And what is their contributions to the GDP? So that is what presidential system can cause. In US, where they manage it, they have very strong economy. They have very strong system of governance. But here, our line of fracture, which is this ethnicity, and of recent religion, is actually, bringing us back than pushing us forward. And that is why, for me, presidential system of government is not the best for us, because let's look at even the president alone as an identity in a presidential system. He has power to do and undo, because he dictates the pace, either at state level, at local government level, and even at federal level. Look at the number of appointments that the president alone will make. So, but unlike the regional government, you only have ceremonial head. You have your regional, governors, and then they make their own laws that suit their own, way of life. If I were to even say presidential, system of government should be adopted here, I would have preferred that we adopt it in full. In US, where presidential system of government is practiced, each state have their own constitution. They have their own way of doing things. Their system of governance, their economy, they develop it on their own. And they are having a kind of autonomy within the federal system. They have autonomy. In terms of appointment, in terms of the kind of economy they run, and so on and so forth. So it makes them to develop. Unlike here, that it is whatever that is said from Abuja. In US, they have what is called state police. They have their own security apparatus on their own at state level. We don't have that here. The IG have the say from Abuja to every other police command all over the country. Same thing with chief of armies and all other paramilitary organizations. So the kind of federal system we operate is not the ideal federal system of government. I would prefer that if we go by regional government, we will develop quick. Recently, there was this Southwest Development Commission. Before we know it, the Southeast, they are already also gearing up to have Southeast Development Commission. And those commissions, they are put in place to make sure that what are those things that we actually need as a people. And that will also force other regions to also quickly emulate or imitate to develop their own
Now,
region.
talking about regionalism, I can but go back to our founding fathers. We've spoken about our founding fathers and the blueprint that is set for Nigeria, which you rightly said was working for Nigerians before the military. Then after the military, we had democracy. In between, we had military, the civil rule, then the military, then what we have now. You actually help us understand the fact that there is a difference between the type of presidential governance that we have with the one practiced outside the shores. You use the United States as an example. And I would want to ask if there is a Nigeria way for doing things, because it is known all over the world. Once you mention that you are Nigerian, you are expected to behave in a different way. This is what happens to us when we're outside the shores of Nigeria. The moment you say you're Nigerian, if you come late, what happened? Why did you use your Nigerian time? Is there a Nigerian way that has placed us where we're at right now? That's one question. And is it impossible for us as Nigerians, talking to our leaders right now to go back to the drawing board and pick and dust this blueprint that was set, because they're still there. Dust it and use it as a way to find our way back home, as the map that will take us back to the glory or glorious days that we enjoyed before the coming of the military, which a lot of people have pointed, like you have rightly said, truncated. In fact, we're going like this, the military came and everything just, you know, from then on, it seemed that we lost our way, or we are struggling. Is there a Nigerian way? Is it this attitude that has placed the nation where it is today? And is it possible for us to create a change that we desire?
Thank you. About a few days ago, I was going through the news. The senators and the House of Representative members, they were having meetings in Kano. And one of the items that was raised in that meeting was the issue of reverting back to regional system of government. And from the information we had, the Northern caucus, the Northern representative, again, they were speaking against the move vehemently, that they cannot go back to regional government. And this is, you were talking of, is there a Nigerian way that has actually brought us to where we are? You see, the issue of ethnicity is more or less doing us quite bad more than good. It was supposed to be a point of strength for us, but honestly is drawing us backward almost at every step we take to move forward. You will agree with me that that was actually one of the problems in the past. Another problem is this, that when you have inequality in the level of education, it's also a problem. I belong to the academics, and when it comes to admission processes, you have the cutoff mark being lowered for a particular section of the country, and then you have it high for a particular section of the country. Then why should there be such a disparity? And that is to tell you that some part of the country, they are educationally less advantaged, and while some are also more advantageous than the other. Now, as a result of that, you see, the way you see things, if you are well groomed educationally, and you know what it takes to actually bring about change, someone who is not well educated, who could not see what you are seeing, will always be an obstacle for you. And that is the problem we're having in the country. So it's a factor, it's a Nigerian factor that is peculiar to Nigeria, that until we are able to address that, until the enlightened ones among us, we come together and agree that, look, we have to move forward as a people. You will agree with me that if you go out of the country, the picture about Nigeria is quite bad. Yeah, it's quite bad, and it's because of this, the problem we are having homeland here. So ethnicity, inequality in education, they are major issue that is bringing us backward instead of moving forward as a country. So again, when you look at our youth, I go back to the issue of the youth. When you look at our youth, the focus that we expect them to have, like the youth of the old, Gowon was around 27 or 30 years when he governed Nigeria. 27 or 30 or so, when he governed Nigeria. You can imagine that. Presently, what is in the mindset of every youth in the country is how to make it. What do I mean by that? Get to any office, get any job, just look for ways to siphon whatever that is available there to make your own life better, forgetting about every other person. But thank God, we are still having some dissenting voices, such as Chowore. I mention him because he's still youth. Who will not bother about the harassment of the government here and there. I am not saying government should be abused, But I am saying that this country has to move forward. Somebody should stand up and be the voice. If Inahoro has not stood up that time to agitate for others to follow, it's likely nobody would have, asked for independence that time. So, as we speak, I think another protest is coming up. I'm a supporter of protest, but not to destroy anything that has to do with the public utilities. Protest to send a note of warning to the leaders that our country cannot continue the way we are going. If we continue the way we are going, it will be counterproductive.
I know Ezekiel has something to ask, but Ezekiel just, give me this. But because he mentioned protest, and Ezekiel, protest was one of the tools that Nigerians used during the colonial rule to gain independence. Protests from workers, protests by students. Of course, we all remember the Aba women riots during the colonial time and the results that came from it. Protest has been a way for Nigerians to actually ask or agitate for change. Like you rightly said, you agree with protest, but not destructive protest. So since we know this is something that we cannot avoid, I would want us to talk about the corrective way of protesting or agitating and getting it done outside of, the destructive part of it.
Thank you very much. You see, Tinubu, our current president, led a protest when Jonathan was the president. And there wasn't any, no life lost to it, and no property, destroyed. When you see people who are leading you, in that protest, we have Tinubu there, we have Pastor Bakare there, we have our own revered Wole Soyinka there. So if you see such figures in a protest, you got to caution yourself if you want to go excessive, because they are like the mirror through which all of us is speaking. So if we could have figures like that who will stand up and lead to tell the government that, look, we are not doing this to malign the government, we are not doing this to condemn the government, but we are demanding for a better governance. We need voice. We need people that matters, people who can stand as a model, who we can follow. And from there, not like the type of protest that was done and they were burning everything in Lagos. No, that wasn't a protest. So we need a protest that we have leaders who we actually mold our voice to the government. And from there, you see, government always recognize people that ask the voices in the society.
That's true. If
you has no name, you have no organization that can put pressure on government and you are speaking, they won't listen to you. But you should have people, be it religious leaders, be it traditional leaders, be it people that are well-meaning in the society. If they could lead a protest to tell the government that, look, what we are demanding for is a better government, a better society, government will listen. And like you said, there have been a lot of prayer group who have been, like National Association of Nigerian Students in the past, they have been able to. I witnessed one during Abacha, even at military for that matter.
Time is never our friend on the show.
Thank you very much.
You have a question before we go?
Actually, it's more like it's more like every October 1st, we tend to speak about the same thing over and over. Last 10 years, last 9 years, 5 years, it's always the same issue. We always grapple around insecurity, corruption, economic instability, on the normal day, on the good day. But it's more like every October 1st, we always talk about how best to prefer a solution, what else to do. But from now till the next October 1st is going to be the same issue once again. But of course, we're always out of time. We're out of time for now, but I really hope to have you next time. We'll discuss issues as this.
Thank you.
So you're talking about solutions, as we often do.
Exactly.
So what do we do as we end our discussion today? Ezekiel has hit the nail on the head. We're supposed to talk about our reality now: kidnapping for ransom, insecurity, unemployment, hunger in the land. What do we do? What's your independent message in the midst of all of this?
Thank you. Nigeria is a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
For 64 years.
Yeah. You know, we had our interruptions. So it's a work in progress. My own personal opinion is that for every government that we have going forward, please let us pick an item in our national life. Is it security? Let us invest heavily in the security apparatus of the country. Let our borders be secured. Is it education? Let us pick it. If you are spending 4 years, in 4 years, we should be able to point to one thing, that this one has been done, if not to the point of perfection, at least to near perfection. Let us pick an item. Is it economy? Let us do whatever it takes to sanitize areas that needed to be sanitized and improve on what is supposed to be improved, and then let us know that we have a very strong economy. If it is education, the same thing. And through that, I think we'll move forward.
We want to appreciate you for being our guest on our special Independence celebration today. We do hope that you enjoy it with your family, and hope to see you again and again on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, let us celebrate Nigeria as the only country we have. We have no other. Nigeria is the greatest nation, the place where two rivers meet. The people shall be great. I believe that. Tomorrow will be better. I am Anire Binitie. Thanks for sharing this wonderful moment with us.
Have a wonderful celebration ahead. I remain Ezekiel Ogar.
Happy Independence.
Yes, there is news on your device, but hearing an analyst perspective is the icing on the cake that Daybreak Africa provides. Break. I mean, start your day with prompt analysis of the latest news, trends.
Exactly, and then you see these people, they're so agile, they can do a lot of
politics.
We have to go back to that regional system. That is the foundation of this country, for God's sake.
Entertainment, fashion, culinary skills.
So first I'm going to be pouring the oil inside because
religious and cultural events amongst others on Daybreak Africa.
For a rich mix of analysis on current issues, tune in daily from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on channel 480 and 124 on Startimes.